defects of the people who originally had this agenda in mind. So that's why, to me, this course is really quite important. Okay, guys, sorry for that, but it was on my mind, and I thought you might like that. Apologize for bothering you with it. Back to our Mendelssohn. So, we were talking about the first chapter here. I think basically we said he was worried about excommunication, right? And that's what he ended up with. There's some other arguments. Let's look at the second chapter. We have somewhat different pages. So he starts to talk about Vendôme's essay that I read you. Let's see. We went up to the circumciser and so on, who enjoys his income and rank, not because he affirms or endorses a special doctrinal position, but because he performed an operation. And he concludes, as long as he does his job, cuts, it's a very crude example, obviously, cuts the foreskin, doesn't matter if he believes or not, you know, he should be paid and so on. But really that wasn't the question I think Vendôme was asking. So he's taking liberties with that question. In any event, finally, he concludes, as a result of that argument, and of course it isn't final because we're going to go a lot further here. I don't know if you have the same numbering as I have. According, there's about 3 paragraphs further along from that circumcision stuff. What page would that be in yours? We did the circumcision stuff last time. The circumciser. You find it? Anyway, you'll find it. According to the laws of reason, can rights to person and things be linked to a person's assent to specific doctrines? Or can they be acquired by agreement with them? That's a very important question. Can contracts and agreements produce perfect rights as well as compulsory duties unless imperfect rights and duties of conscience have previously existed without any contract? This is really abstract stuff. What he's talking about is social contract again. In other words, you know, with the laws of reason as your guide, and he assumes that he can decide what the laws of reason are. I don't know if he can or not. Is a person's rights linked to agreeing to certain doctrines that the majority society or the majority religion or even the Jewish ghetto situation, the authorities in there, can the circumciser's rights be linked to his assent to certain doctrines? Again, he's always worried about the same thing. We're having the same thing today, aren't we? We're trying to decide, do the people in the prisons who are terrorists have certain rights, you know, of the American Constitution? And it's a tough question. Mostly, the people who have rights to the American Constitution are citizens of the country. But is there such a thing as human rights? That's what people are asking. Can you just keep people in jail indefinitely and so on? If they're going to come back and cut your throat afterwards, it's a very serious question. I mean, no one, it's so weird because no one in World War II asked that question, as people have pointed out. I mean, there were about over 500,000 German prisoners sitting there, and they could have languished there for 5 or 10 years. Nobody was worried about their rights, and the same thing, with all due respect from any Japanese background people in the room, with Japanese prisoners of war. Whoever was concerned about how long you could keep them without habeas corpus. Nobody worried about such a thing. But our modern world is so full of press and communications that the least thing you do wrong is immediately broadcast all over the world. You know, it's instant media coverage of everything. So I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm just saying that that's the same question in effect. I'll stop a moment. Does any of you have any answers to this question that you want to share with us? Anybody feel they want to say something? Yeah.
I don't think it's the least thing that we've done wrong. I mean, if they were shooting these guys with a certain amount of human dignity, then there would probably be a lot less of a clamor
Well, wait a second, hold on. We weren't speaking of what we in America have done wrong or right, or the least or the most. I just want to know is, do people, you feel in these arguments that Mendelssohn is making here about, you know, do they have some kind of rights, is what the question is. And you say yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay, so the government is saying, okay, and McCain and those people, they have Geneva Convention rights. Do they have rights beyond that? In other words, not to be tortured mercilessly or things of that kind. Do they have rights? No one's beheading them as far as I know, and nobody wants to starve them to death as far as I know, although they may be secretly, I have no idea. Water torture was something that they spoke about. I shouldn't laugh at these things. But do they have some other kind of a right? And yeah, I don't have the answer. In World War II, no one would have even thought about it. That's all I'm saying. It never would have entered anyone's mind, yeah.
I think that when it comes to the question of whether the Constitution applies to is it just citizens or just people in general, I think there was something about how the rights that are listed, like the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, they aren't giving people those rights, but it was rather an affirmation that they existed.
Well, name me one or two of the Bill of Rights so that we can focus on what you're talking about.
Okay, freedom of speech, freedom of religion.
Well,
how about trial by jury?
Trial by jury.
Okay, so look here. No one thinks prisoners of war in a battlefield situation have trial by jury, because if you did, you would have an endless procedure of legal issues arising that would just tie up the courts forever. Military tribunals, they're going to give these people, obviously. So, you know, people don't want them to have military tribunals. But it's a very difficult issue, but I see what you're saying. The question is, I don't think anyone in America, either party, thinks the rights of the American Constitution apply to the prisoners of war who have intent to destroy this country. Now, the only question is whether these people are all in there legitimately, and do they all have this mindset of wanting to destroy the country?
15-year-old kids, some of them.
Well, I mean, let's not go overboard in our pity. I mean, they're not going to pity you in a similar situation, I assure you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't pity them, but let's not pull on our heartstrings here about that. The question is, are they legitimately involved in a